Good afternoon. I'm Steve Lowry, the editor of the High-Low here at the Long Beach Post. Welcome to today's live chat. Usually we do a lot of art stuff because we're the arts and culture section, but we had a story last week that was just so amazing that we wanted to bring people on to kind of talk a little more about it. It was about a Paralympian who lost his leg in the ocean and thought it was gone for good. And then the marine safety crew from Long Beach actually went into the water days after it disappeared and incredibly found the leg, which, by the way, is black. And as you know, the water off Long Beach is pretty black. So we wanted to bring them on. We have Tess Parkhouse, who is part of the public safety dive team. Hi, Tess.
Hi.
And we have Gonzalo Medina, who's actually the big chief, marine safety chief, to talk about his crew, which he's very proud of because he was just bragging about them and Tess was loving it. Hi, Gonzalo.
Hi there. Thanks for having us.
So let's talk about this. So the guy is in the water. His name is, his last name is Mix. I forget his first name. He's a Paralympian. He's coming out of the water and someone screams, your leg, your leg. And his leg had come off. The leg's worth about $20,000. And as they say, it's sunk just like a rock. He thinks that's the last they're ever going to see of it. They do call the lifeguards. Gonzalo, can you kind of take it from here? What happened after that? What's the process when something like this happens?
So yeah, we received the call about the leg missing, and our crew went out there, and we had a general area of where the leg had gone missing. It's obviously not a life emergent issue, so it became. I got a phone call on that Sunday. Hey, this is what happened. We think we can find it. Are we clear to dive on this? And, that was the call from one of the dive supervisors. So I cleared it and they proceeded to do a dive with 2 hours of daylight left. So there's very little visibility at that point. They thought that they could go down and use a portable sonar device that we carry on our rescue boats. We call it the Shark. It's the size of a large laptop with a screen, and it projects a two-dimensional image on your screen. But we use that to find targets underwater, mostly victims that we're trying to rescue. If it's a submersion, cars, airplanes. Or prosthetic legs. The thing about the prosthetic leg was because of its material and the way in which it was lying, it wasn't really casting a shadow. So we did a really thorough search with the Shark, but we knew that we were going to have to come back the next day and do a much more traditional search where we grid out the area and we start clearing areas, kind of like a lawn. You just start clearing sections of those areas with our divers.
Was there any point where you said, look, we're not finding this thing. It's not that big. It's very dark. What brought you back that next day after you devoted 2 hours to this?
Well, I talked to the dive supervisors and I said, hey, what's our probability here? And I never once received or got this is going to be too impossible to find. In fact, all I received, the messaging I got back from them was, we think we can find it. We know it's in this area. We're confident we can find it. So never once did they question their abilities. In fact, it was more like, whatever you do, don't hold us back because we're going to find this.
You were saying that probably a lot of your divers, because they're all probably, they come from competitive swimming, they probably identified with this gentleman because he himself was a competitor himself, and they probably wanted to help him out.
Certainly that's the case. Many of our staff were all very competitive swimmers, collegiate swimmers, or water polo players, and many of them close to competing at that level. So they empathize with this athlete. They know what it takes to get there, and for them, I know that they knew what it meant for this athlete to be able to continue training towards Tokyo. So that was a big part of their motivation as well, I think.
Tess, how did you come in on this? Were you part of the first wave that went to look for the leg?
No, I actually wasn't. I got to do the fun part, and I was on the final team that actually found the lake. So I came in. They had actually searched both Sunday and Monday looking for the lake. I came on duty on Tuesday and heard what had been going on, and that they would probably be setting up an additional dive that afternoon. And that's exactly what we did. We got a group of divers together, loaded up onto one of our rescue boats, and went back to the dive site. And at this point, we had been able to get more information that gave us a more exact, what we call point last seen, which that way we can mark that area with a buoy, and that's what we dive off of. And so on the day that we found the leg, we'd searched multiple days. We'd spent a good amount of time actually looking at photos from the day that it happened, and figuring out exactly where to put that marker buoy. And once we actually got in the water, our dive only lasted 11 minutes.
Oh, wow. Now, had this around the office, around the firehouse there, had the leg become a bit of a holy grail? Like everyone was like, we're going to get that leg. We're going to, like, this had become something you guys really wanted to nab.
I'd say we were definitely hopeful that we had. I mean, I think initially the first day, based on my understanding, we didn't know the whole story behind the leg and all of that. But by the third day, we'd learned a lot more about the significance and the Olympic goals and all of that. And so it was really exciting for us to be able to actually find that on the third day.
Okay, so the 11 minutes you're in the water, take us through. Are they telling you you're getting close? Is it like out of Aliens? Like, you're getting close, you're getting close. Like, and are you just feeling around, Tess, or can you see?
So we actually had what we consider here in Long Beach to be pretty good visibility that day. And by pretty good, we could see probably about 3 to 4 feet in the water.
That's good visibility.
Again, for us to be able to, the way the bottom type is, especially in that area, it's very silty, fine dust. So if there's any disturbance, it's almost goes, and even if you do have 3 to 4 foot visibility, it will go from 3 to 4 feet to 0 visibility within a second. So you have to be really careful as you're diving down to the bottom that you don't disturb the bottom, which is easy to do, when you land on the bottoms with your fins, as you're kicking and swimming. So you just have to be really careful with that. But we were lucky. We had 3 to 4 feet of visibility. It didn't get too disturbed as we descended the line. And then the type of search that we actually did it's called an expanding circle search. So basically we had two divers, and what we do is we don't know exactly where the leg is, so unfortunately they can't tell us when we're getting closer.
Oh.
we just have to hope to find it based on this search pattern that we use. And basically what that search pattern is we start at that marker buoy that we place. There's an anchor at the bottom. One diver stays at the anchor and uses our compass to determine the second diver is doing a circle swim around that anchor. And so we use our compass to make sure they've completed an entire circle. Because again, in 0 visibility, it can get disorienting where your exact location is. And then once they've completed the circle, we have underwater comms, and we can also use rope pull communications. They've completed the circle, then they'll expand that circle out slightly and do another circle, and continue that process until we find what we're looking for, or we run out of, this our safe amount of air that we can have, or some other issue comes up. So
I think a lot of people would recognize that. Sounds very much what it's like looking for parking in Belmont Shore. You start right in front of the guy's house, then you keep driving and driving.
yes,
Okay.
circles.
When you finally found it, did you see it or did you feel it?
So I was at the anchor.
Okay.
So the diver I was diving with, he's the one who found it, and he actually saw it. So, and again, we were lucky that we had that little bit of visibility. He saw it laying on the bottom, and was able to grab it and communicate to the rest of the team that he had found it.
So you can talk underwater, right? You have that kind of capability.
Yeah, so we wear full face masks while we're diving, and
Mm.
that allows us to both communicate with the person we're diving with, and then we can also communicate to the team on the surface as well.
Was there a lot of hooting and hollering?
There was not a lot of hooting and hollering, but we were excited that we had been able to find it.
You were very excited. Stephen, can we show the picture of Tess holding up the leg? Let's see if we have this. Because when Tess comes out of the water, there it is. I was saying, it really does look like you're holding up your Olympic gold medal. You're just very, very proud of having that. You guys, incredible. How did you find out, Gonzalo, that they had found the leg?
Well, I got a text probably within minutes of it happening from one of my captains, and all the text says, "We got it." So I knew exactly what they were talking about, and I knew they were going to make notifications with the athlete. And so at that point, it was just a relief, and it was good. And I mean, I was just so proud of all of their efforts. I mean, they train. This is such a unique experience for us, because what we train for is life and death, trying to make a rescue. Our team trains to make a rescue in 15 minutes or less on a vehicle submersion, on a missing swimmer, a plane crash, or something of that sort. And their mission is specifically centered around rescue. There's a lot of dive teams that all do planned dives. This was a planned dive in the sense that there was not a life threat. But a rescue mission has to be done quickly, and it has to be done fast. And so this was a little atypical for them. They typically are geared much for rescue, but just a great opportunity for them too. And just couldn't be prouder.
You were telling me that California, next to Florida, has the most incidences of vehicles in the water, and that people like Tess have to train for that. And that's just not a matter of finding something. You've got to do it quickly. And this is the main thing you do train for, right? They constantly train for that. Yes.
Yeah, all of our rescue boats have trained scuba divers on them. They carry specialized equipment. You're all familiar with traditional scuba a cylinder, which is on your back, but they actually carry a piece of equipment that allows them to put a scuba bottle on their body, and within minutes, so they can be in the water in a matter of two minutes, and they carry equipment on this that allows them to puncture automobile windows. They carry special tools to cut through the seat belt, and they train for all of this with simulators that we have. We have simulators that are designed to look like a vehicle. We flip them upside down, and then we'll send Tess or any of the other divers down there in blacked out masks so they can't see. And they go through the motions of staying calm, conserving their air, because they don't want to consume their air and get too excited while they're doing it, and just be methodical, search the car, search for victims, keep safe, stop, think, then act.
Hey, by the way, I want to tell everybody at home, I know you're amazed by this, and we're going to get into actually how you become one of these divers if you're maybe interested, because we were saying, Gonzalo, this is one of those jobs that you don't even know is a job until you're like 25. But if you have any questions or comments, please go on Facebook or wherever you're watching us and send them along. We'd be happy to ask them. Tess, Gonzalo brought up the fact that when you're under this tremendous, let's face it, pressure of trying to get something done in 15 minutes, it sounds like the key thing is to remain calm. What kind of training is that? Is there, I don't know, meditation or yoga, or what kind of breathing exercises do you have to do to keep yourself calm at all times?
Oh man, no meditation or yoga. That would probably be helpful, but it's not something typically used in the public safety world, I'd say. But I think the key thing is just the amount of training that we do. So the repetition and the fact that we've done the drills and we've done simulations so many times. And while we're doing that training, they slowly add more and more challenge. Our training supervisors, they slowly add more and more challenges. So Chief Medina mentioned, blackout masks. So when we first start training on using this expanding circle search pattern, we actually first try it in a pool. And it's beautiful, it's super clear, the water's warm, you're comfortable. We've all spent lots of time in pools over the course of our lives. And so we'll first do it at the very basic level. And then they'll increase the intensity, they'll time us, we'll wear blacked out masks. So we go from, that clear, nice visibility to absolute zero visibility. It's wearing basically scuba diving, wearing a blindfold. And then we do have our training supervisors there in that controlled pool environment to make sure that it stays safe. But then slowly you build up to that, and then it goes to full run-throughs of what the call would actually be like in the ocean. And you do that over and over and over again. And so that when it actually happens, you have that adrenaline rush of, okay, this is, someone's life is on the line at this moment, but you know exactly what to do. You've done it so many times that you're prepared for it.
Tess, how did you end up on the dive team? You began, as a lot of people do, I believe, as a part-time lifeguard, right?
Yeah, so I started as a seasonal lifeguard back in 2007. I was a seasonal lifeguard all through my high school and college years, and then I became a permanent employee in 2015. So when we first get hired during our probationary year, our first year, we all go through an advanced dive program, which basically teaches us all how to conduct primary searches underwater. And so that's that expanding circle search, among other things. But we all go through that. And then once you have gone through that ADP course and you've learned the basics of conducting searches underwater, when there's a spot available on our dive team, there's an application and a tryout process for that. So there's limited spots on the team. And so once there was an opening, I went through that testing process. I really liked that the training that we had done in the past and wanted to be more involved in that.
Gonzalo, how many members are on the team?
15 members on the dive team. And one thing I should add, while Tess on her own trained a lot to be competitive for that selection process, once you're on the dive team, all of our dive teams go on to become underwater dive instructors. So in a sense, Steve, you mentioned that you weren't a certified diver. Tess could technically is trained to certify you as a scuba diver for the whole team. And so the whole team is basically trained to that instructor level. And we feel that that just gives them really strong fundamental core skills when they're underwater to keep them safe.
When those spots come open, Gonzalo, I imagine it's very competitive. There's not a lot of them, and it's such a specific job. Do you get a lot of interest from across the country for those spots?
Well, so those spots are only reserved for our sworn Marine Safety Division. So they're only for our members. So all of our Marine Safety Division can effect a rescue. They're all trained to dive and effect a rescue on scuba, but that dive team with that equipment that you're seeing as Tess came up, diving in those kind of conditions, or diving at night, wearing that dry suit, full face and equipment, using the shark that we talked about earlier, all that stuff, that requires a higher level of training. So those are those positions that we're discussing on the dive team.
We talked about Tess coming the kind of natural way through lifeguard. You, of course, came the natural way. You have an MFA in creative writing. So, of course, that's, I would imagine, it's one or the other, lifeguard or novel writer, right?
Yeah, they both are very similar.
So close. In fact, you have your MFA from Anchorage. So you spent some time up in Alaska.
Yeah, I spent about 7 years up there. And I went up to Alaska on a full swimming scholarship out of Long Beach.
Okay.
So I competed there competitively and stayed on. And I love the state, wonderful place. during that whole time, I was driving back every summer to work as an ocean lifeguard, as a seasonal ocean lifeguard, and kind of maintain that. So I was leaving the best part of the Alaskan summer and returning for the winter. But yeah, it was great, and I was very fortunate to be able to do that.
Tess, being out in the water, you mentioned it's very dark out there. We were saying, obviously, most of your job is very stressful and very important, but there are some weird things you end up seeing out there, right?
Yeah, I mean, we get to, on the best of times, we get to see some really cool sea life, which I think a lot of people don't expect in Long Beach. But it is out there, and that is really cool to see. Out along the breakwall, there's a bunch of seals and sea lions out there, and a bunch of sea life, different types of fish. So that's really cool to be able to see that, those things. But yeah, it's surprising. I mean, as I'm sure you know, Long Beach is bordered by the Los Angeles River and the San Gabriel River. So when it rains, whatever's in those rivers flushes down. And sometimes we find some strange debris on the bottom. I mean, you'd mentioned shopping carts. I've definitely seen old coolers, bicycle, you name it. We've probably seen it under there.
How often are you in the water, Tess?
Scuba diving or just
in
general?
No, just for your job.
So we train, we have at least at a minimum monthly dive trainings. So just for training purposes, it's a minimum of once a month. If we get calls beyond that, then, it would be more. And then depending on if we're going through any other sort of specialized training, it could be even more. So Chief Medina had mentioned how we're all trained as underwater instructors. So we're all scuba instructors. And when we go through that training, it's from January to April. It's Saturday and Sunday all day. And we're pretty much in the water all day, both those days. So depending on what type of training or what we're participating in at the time, there's often more on top of those monthly trainings.
I'm just curious, I write for a living, so I don't like going home and writing books like your boss. Does the fact that you scuba dive for a living, does that at all affect your, do you not want to go to Belize and scuba dive, or is that a completely different experience?
I don't want to go to Long Beach and scuba dive when I'm not on duty. Right. I would say that. I think for me, I do still, I really enjoy just being in the water. So that may not necessarily mean scuba diving a lot outside of work, but it is a really cool skill to have for when you do go really unique places, like you mentioned, Belize, or places that have exceptional diving, to be able to have that comfort level, even when you're far from home, and know, I'm comfortable with my skills in the water, and be able to, see a whole different world down there. I think that's really cool. But I'd say most of my water activities here in Long Beach are off duty or not scuba diving.
Before we go, we do have a question from a reader from a viewer for Tess, asking, since there's so little visibility down there, do you get kind of claustrophobic down there, and how do you battle that?
I know that is sometimes an issue for people. I personally haven't had that issue. I'm really comfortable in the water, so I think that helps. I grew up going through our junior lifeguard program here in Long Beach. I swam and played water polo all through high school. I was a lifeguard and a junior lifeguard instructor. So I'm really, it's kind of my comfort zone. But I think the biggest thing is just kind of accepting the fact, especially when you can't see it at all. I think the biggest thing is some people, they try to see, they're like, maybe if I just try hard, and just accepting the fact, okay, I can't see. So what other senses do I have? What else can I use to conduct this search? And instead of trying to focus on the fact that you can't see, focusing on those other senses or those other tools that we have to make that search possible.
That is someone who manages stress. Gonzalo, last question to you. About that, you do have these people who have this tremendously stressful job. What do you, are there things you try to do that when they're not in the water to kind of keep them calm, so that they're not bugging out of their head when they're underwater?
Well, I know that for me personally, the biggest comfort knowing, because we don't make widgets, we're all preparing for something that's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. We don't know when it's going to happen. So there's a lot of nervousness that comes along with that while you're out in they look calm and collected, but I know there's that nervousness. I used to have that feeling all the time when I was on duty. But the best thing for our staff that I tell them, what's going to give you the most confidence, what's going to be the most ability to work calmly, is just to train, just to keep training. The more time you spend underwater, the more time you keep polishing your skills, keep doing what you know you should be doing to prepare. That's what gives you the most peace, I think.
Yeah. Well, it was fascinating to talk about not only getting the leg, but just your job in general. Thanks for coming, Tess. Gonzalo, we really appreciate it. Tomorrow, another live chat. But until then, we bid you good afternoon. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.